Hey, it's Kate, and welcome back. Today we have an interview with Tess, and she is a financial planner. Now, Tess is only considering a course, so she just has some ideas. Let's see if we can talk her into it. I think our chances are really good. So stay tuned, and here we go. All right, so we're going to get started. We have Tess here. I'm so happy to have her here. She's so close locally. We could have met in person, but it's so convenient working with Zoom now. So she's going to tell us a little bit about her business. So Tess, tell us a little bit about this program that you're thinking about creating.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Kate. So the program that I'm thinking about creating would be a master class, and it would be really to master your money. So the way I look at it is there's different levels to mastering your money, right? We all start at the basics, so kind of building our foundation. So think about graduating from college, getting that first job. What are the foundational things we all need to implement? And the reality for most of us, I'm a finance degree, so it's a little different for me because I actually learned this stuff in college. My undergraduate degree was in finance, but for anybody else who didn't take that finance class, we're missing that financial literacy, right? And I'm so glad to see that some states are finally implementing financial literacy as part of the school curriculum. But really for our generation and the older generations, there is that lack of, what is our foundation? So you graduate from college, you get your first job, you have to figure out your employee benefits, you have to build an emergency savings account, you really start to understand how to use credit cards and loans. And it's very important to use credit and loans responsibly, right? Otherwise, you can get yourself in high interest debt. And unfortunately, I've worked with many people who did get themselves into that credit card debt because they didn't understand how it works and how the interest compounds so quickly. Because, at 30% APR on your credit card, you put something on that credit card, and if you can't pay it off in full, you really get in trouble, and then it snowballs and you find yourself in this deep hole with debt that's hard to repay. So that's kind of what I think of as the foundational pieces. And then as you get more established and you start understanding the basics, you kind of go up from there, right? So, you start investing, you start building wealth, you start doing more tax planning, there's more complicated financial strategies involved. So I think the course would basically take you from beginning to end. So you really master your money. Ultimately, you feel empowered and you feel financially secure and financially free, which is, I think, the end goal for all of us, is to get to that financial freedom, which is, I think of it as a pyramid, and at the top of the pyramid is financial freedom, which is where you no longer have to work for money. You can just work for the love of working, and you have enough assets and investments to sustain your lifestyle.
So have you worked with somebody individually, or have you worked with people individually to go from they didn't really have the financial literacy to the point where they were mastering their money?
I actually work with a lot of young professionals. So I work with many dentists and medical professionals specifically, and they come out of graduate school with 6 figures in student loans. And they've spent more time in schooling than most of us have because, they have the undergraduate degree. Some of them have a master's, and then they go into dental school or medical school, which is another 4 years. And then they do a residency, which is potentially another 2+ years. So a lot of them end up graduating closer to 30, and they have to make up for lost time, in addition to figure out what to do with their student loans, in addition to being in a very challenging career with constant continuing education requirements, and just simply being busy with taking care of their patients. Right on top of it all, and then potentially starting families. So there's so many things that they're juggling. Personal finances is just one more thing. And because they didn't learn about personal finances in school, it's really helpful to have that trusted financial planner, that partner who can kind of guide them to help them put the foundational pieces together and then just kind of build wealth and optimize their money along the way.
I can
Yes.
imagine you go to school to learn all the stuff that you need for your profession. And
Right.
then there's probably quite a lot of getting involved in your new job and learning all your new patients. I mean, that's a lot of stuff to add to that. The
Yes.
finances can be very stressful, I imagine.
Yeah, I think it's just one more thing to an already overwhelming career.
Mhm. I can imagine that simplifying is probably a very important aspect of this.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's one of the most important things when it comes to your finances or trying to do a new workout routine is you have to keep things simple. With budgeting, for example, which can be super overwhelming for a lot of people, I would say the majority of the population. I like to keep things simple by using one credit card for pretty much the majority of your purchases, because that way you can review it on a monthly basis and it's just one credit card statement that you have to go through versus having 10 different credit cards and trying to figure out, oh my gosh, how much did I spend? Now I have to look at 10 different credit cards. That's very hard to do. I would have a hard time keeping track of that many accounts.
Yeah, I would see that. And they probably get tons of offers to start one
Oh,
credit card after another.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And it can be appealing to get one credit card for these rewards and that credit card, and then you end up with so many credit cards that you're not keeping track of.
So, how long does it generally take for somebody to go from financial novice to financial master?
I wish it was a simple process and a quick process because we all want instant results.
Mhm.
That is just not reality. I've been studying finance for 20 years now, and I've been in finance working for 15 years. And I want to say, I feel finally at that level where, yes, I've got this down and I've mastered my money. But even I am still learning new tips and tricks and strategies. So I feel like as long as we're alive, we're always learning and getting better and better.
So, if you did create this course, so you have this idea of
Mhm.
what a financial mastery looks like, because
Sure.
there's still continual learning. But how
Yeah.
long does it take, do you think, to go from with a busy schedule? Because
Mhm,
they can't
mhm.
do this
Right.
24/7 just on this. But about how long do you feel it would take to take somebody from novice to a point where you feel like continuing education is what they need, not a course per se?
Sure. I could see it taking about 6 months to learn the basics to where you feel like, okay, I've got this down. I have the most important pieces in place.
I was thinking it might even take longer, but yeah, 6 months is probably good.
Yeah, I mean, 6 months to a year, realistically, depending on how much time that person has to put into a course.
Yeah, because the thing is that you're not only talking about the time that you're sitting down and learning the course, but they
Mhm.
need time to implement those actions in their life. So
Absolutely.
if you
Yeah.
have like a thing where they're going through their monthly statements,
Mhm.
you might need 3 or 4 months for that to become kind of like, I won't say habit because it's not really a habit if you're doing it once a month, but to
Sure.
make it like this expected routine where I put it on the calendar and
Mhm.
a young couple is sitting down and doing it maybe the first of every month or the 25th or whatever the day might be.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, so you would probably want to have a few months of
Mhm.
them acquiring a habit and then using those habits throughout the month. As you're thinking about this course, it's really cool that you haven't done it yet because like anything is possible. So,
Yes.
so tell me, when somebody signs up for your course, what
Mhm.
is it that they're really wanting? I mean, they're not just wanting the knowledge. There's some goal that they really want for themselves and
Mhm.
some way that their life looks right now that they want to get away from. So give us a
Mhm.
kind of a glimpse into what their life is like now and what they really want for themselves in the future.
I think what comes to mind is most people have anxiety when it comes to their money. It's this sense of overwhelm. They're not sure what they should be doing. They feel like perhaps they're not doing the right things. So it's that constant second guessing themselves, not having peace of mind, not feeling secure. And so ultimately, that's what everybody wants. They want to feel financially secure. They want to feel like they're doing the right things. They want to have that peace of mind, is what it comes down to.
It sounds like that's a type of state where they may be very vulnerable too. So if
Mhm.
somebody's saying, here's what you need to do, they're like, oh, I probably should, because they're already having all these fears.
Mhm.
Those fears can be leveraged.
Yes, it's definitely a matter of finding how to use fear, but also I like to always have a positive spin on things. I don't like to come from a place of fear. I like to
Oh,
come from a
yeah.
place of, yeah, motivation. Like, what is it that you want to accomplish, right? Let's focus on the positive result you want versus the fear.
Yeah.
Perhaps there's a way to balance the two.
No, I totally agree. I'm actually not a fan of using fear either.
Yeah,
What I'm
yeah.
saying is that they're in a place where they have all this anxiety and overwhelm and hesitation, and they
Mhm.
have fear that can be used against them by other people. So
Gotcha.
other types of people could take advantage of the way that they're feeling to get them
Sure.
involved in this scheme or that scheme. Something
Sure,
like
sure. Yeah. Well, here's the thing though. I do think that fear can be a positive. And I say that because one of my earliest experiences about learning to invest was from a male professor back in finance class. And he talked about Social Security and how so many people depend on Social Security to take care of them in their old age. And he said, you guys cannot rely on Social Security because by the time you retire, the system may not be around. There might not be enough money. So you're on your own. You better take care of your own future self and you better start investing the minute you get that first job. And that had a profound impact on me. Quite frankly, scared me to think that, hey, listen, I'm on my own. I better do this right because you only get one chance to start investing.
yeah. I get what you're saying. I'm the generation after the baby boomers. So I think about all the people who are like this great mass of people who are older than me.
Yeah.
And they did a lot for our country in putting a lot of money into Social Security, but now they're taking it out. So
Mhm.
like, I hope there's enough for me when I need it.
Right.
But I remember hearing a lot of that stuff too. I agree. Fear can be used well. I'm not a big fan of using fear because I feel like it's overused.
Mhm.
And in this situation like that, where you're talking about, hey, you know what, there's Social Security, and you can
Mhm.
put all of your eggs in that one basket, or you can diversify.
Mhm.
It just seems like a more logical way to just
Mhm.
kind of go to think about, how do I prepare in a real, logical, reasonable way instead of just the whole fear aspect.
Yeah, true.
So the reason I'm not a big fan of fear is I feel like a lot of times people just get used to that fear. Like,
Mhm.
I lived in California for a long time, and
Mhm.
people who are not from California go, oh my goodness, they have earthquakes there. Aren't you afraid? No, no. Now I live in Florida and people are like, are you afraid of hurricanes? They happen. No
Yeah.
problem. I'm fine. So it's like we live with these fears. It may, scare us initially, but we just get so used to that state that it doesn't motivate
Sure.
us anymore.
That's a good point. Yeah, didn't think about that.
All right, so let's move on to this idea of the whole way you have this course structured. You want to go from the foundation all the way to the mastery, but there may be a need to allow for people to learn something and then put it into practice for a few months, depending on what your curriculum endpoint is. So when you talk about having financial mastery, can you kind of describe what that life is like compared to that life of the novice? So the novice is anxiety, overwhelm. There's a lot of hesitation. They're not sure what to do with their money. They're second
Mhm.
guessing themselves. So that's where they are in the beginning.
Mhm.
What does it look like at the end?
So at the end, it looks like security or feeling secure. It feels empowering. You can start focusing on other things that truly matter. So if you're not worrying about your money, what you can do is focus on the things that matter, like your family, your faith, spending your time, how you want to spend it, volunteering. you're really focusing on living your life by design at that point.
Yeah. This is what I hear from some people is like, when you're not in a financially secure place, you think about money all the time.
All the
And when
time.
you are in a financially secure place, you don't really think about money so much.
Yes, yes.
Is that right?
Yeah, I believe it is. For most
Okay.
of us, it is. Yeah, that's the ultimate goal.
What are they doing differently?
I think you have to have a system down, right? You have a system that's working that you know is getting you to your ultimate goal. You have faith in the process because it's not instant. Building wealth and becoming financially secure and having financial freedom doesn't happen overnight for most of us unless you win the lottery. Uh, so it takes years and years to build wealth. But I think once you figure out how it works and how to get there, and you're following the process, mentally, you feel better just knowing you're doing the right things and you're on your way.
In times like this, where a lot of the financial markets seem kind of tough,
Mhm.
what kind of impact does that have on students who have this financial mastery?
And I think, especially in crisis situations, having a handle on your own finances gives you a certain level of control and
Mhm.
security. And, that's what I always come back to is control the things you can control, and everything else will just kind of fall into place over time. You have to have faith that things will work themselves out, right? I mean,
Mhm.
there's always economic cycles, so that is just part of life. I think just knowing that you can't control everything in your life, but control what you can control, because that does give you that level of confidence and security. So you're not constantly freaking out.
And yet we do freak out. It's so
Yes,
funny.
we freak
Like,
out.
finances should be very logical. You got this, you've got this income coming in. This is how you take care of that income. And at the end, this is the life that you get as a result of the decisions that you make. But it's not that easy, is it?
Well, it is not that logical, actually, is what we learn.
Yeah.
So when I first became a financial advisor, I thought it was all logical and it should be very easy, right? I think I am more left brain than right brain, which is more logical. But that's not how most of us are. They say we base our decisions on emotion and then we justify it with logic.
Yes.
So the reality that I've learned is we're all very emotional. And when it comes to our money, it is super emotional.
Hmm.
And so we make the decisions with emotion. It's not logical at all.
Yeah. You love this part of helping people deal with their emotions with the money. Is that one of your favorite things to do?
I mean, I think it's the most fascinating part
Yeah.
of everything. And frankly, I wish I have a psychology degree instead of a finance degree.
They almost should go together, right?
Seriously, yeah, they really should go together because psychology plays a huge part of mastering your finances, right? And
Hmm.
so one of my favorite books is about your brain and your money, and
Hmm.
just understanding how psychology works and how we make decisions. And ultimately, that's why in order to master your money, you have to simplify your finances and you have to make the right decisions seamless. So they're automated and you don't have to actually make that decision. It's already made. You make it one time, you put in the system in place. So for example, saving and investing should be automatic, right? So you're not having to make that decision. It's done. You do it one time and then you set it and forget it.
Hmm.
And so that's how you kind of bypass the emotion with the system in place.
That's pretty cool. So in order to master your money, you might have to master your thoughts about money.
Yeah, there's definitely thoughts, and I think behaviors and actions is really kind of key. So
Yeah.
you put in the behaviors and the actions, and then it kind of takes care of the rest.
Yeah. But those behaviors and actions are generally fueled by those belief systems, like there's not going to be enough, or, you know, I deserve this.
Mhm,
I
mhm.
deserve this Lamborghini. I know I'm only 23, but
Right.
There's nothing wrong with buying a Lamborghini at 23 if you have the finances for it.
If
So
you have the money.
I'm not judging, but
Yeah, yeah. Well, and then, we always have to talk about the trade-offs, right? So even if you have the money for the Lamborghini, what's most important to you? Is it the Lamborghini, or is it about being financially secure and having financial freedom so you don't have to worry about working, right? Because usually you can have anything in life, but you can't have everything in life. And definitely not everything all at once unless you have unlimited resources.
right.
So we have to make it work within the framework of, how much money you're making.
Yeah. So when you're thinking about structuring this course and going from the novice to the master, if you were going to pick out some milestones, what kind of milestones would you set up?
So the first one would be like getting the basics in place.
What's in the basics?
Okay, so the basics would be understanding your budget or your cash flow,
Mhm,
how much money goes in, how much money comes out.
mhm.
That's the basic. Understanding your credit score, getting set up on socialsecurity.gov. So you're reviewing your social security statement to see how much money you'll be getting from social security once you're at retirement. Another basic step would be understanding your tax return.
Okay, so
Yeah.
and maybe anything about savings or credit cards in that?
Oh, yeah, that's coming.
That's coming?
That's coming. Yeah, there's a lot that are just part of the basic foundational things. So yes, understanding how credit cards work, understanding your credit score. That's
Okay.
basic things we should all understand.
That seems like a lot
I
for
know it's a
the base.
lot. I know it's a
So,
lot, but those are just so important. We really all need to know that.
and the outcome of the basics is they would have a budget. They would know their credit score. They would have the
Exactly.
socialsecurity.gov thing set up. They
Yeah.
would have an idea of cash flow. How long do you think you would want somebody to stay at basics in order to feel like your foundation is solid?
Probably a good 6 months actually, because the basics are so important and there's so many.
I think that's a fabulous time frame, maybe a little longer. But
Yeah.
what's nice about 6 months is you also have a lot of things come up to challenge their finances, like shopping sprees or calls to go out with friends. So you've got a chance to see what kind of budget busters are happening.
Yeah,
Did you set up that budget correctly? This might give them 6 months to kind of tweak it as it goes, or maybe they forgot about some family thing they do every year. And so they need to like save for it, or like a family gathering, family reunion or something. So
Yeah, yeah.
what are your thoughts on that?
Well, yes, my thoughts on that are that it's super important to kind of go through the process and have a few months worth of going through the exercise of budgeting and then reviewing your budget against your actual spending to see what went well this month, what didn't go well, why didn't it go well, where did I overspend, how can I do better, why is it important that I do better? Because you have to have a reason to not want to overspend. I think what happens is if it's not more important to you to be financially secure, you're going to continue to overspend. You have to have a reason, a motivation that drives you to stay within reason and to be financially secure.
I think this is fabulous. I think doing this for 6 months is fabulous. And I think probably the most important part of creating a course in the way that you're talking about, it is not just all the learning. The learning is fabulous and people need it, but it's
Sure.
the application. What does it look like in my life?
Yes.
So that all that learning is really good, but it's what am I doing for the next 6 months that's really going to seal the deal. And I think
Yes.
anyone who buys this course that you're creating and goes through it is going to find those sessions incredibly valuable. Like you could even record a session, say, okay, it's time for the month one review. So here's what we're going to do. Make sure you have all of these documents ready. And when you have these documents ready, this is what you're going to ask yourself. Did you stay within budget? If you didn't, that's fine, because the budget you created was just a template. You're going to see if maybe you need to adjust. So maybe some things were a little high. That's great. You underspent. Maybe things were a little low. Whoops. Well, maybe we need to put a little bit more in there. I think that's really probably one of the more valuable parts you have that you're thinking of.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Okay, so if you were going to go from the basics to the mastery, do you feel like there's an intermediate stage, or do you feel like there's a couple of intermediate stages?
Probably yes. I'm thinking the intermediate stage would be getting an understanding of your employee benefits. So like really digging into your employee benefits, reading that whole packet. Usually it's a good 50-page PDF document, but I actually read those for clients. And I think people do need to read them because there's so many different benefits that you're offered through work if you work for someone, and you should utilize that. Another thing could be understanding credit rewards and how that works. Maybe the SSA.gov actually could be moved to the intermediate group, so that way it's not overwhelming in the basics foundation.
Yeah.
Understanding saving and investing, that would be the next step. How much you should have in your emergency savings. By the time you've mastered the basics, you should get a handle on that. And then I would move to the next step, which would be like the mastery. I'm forgetting risk management could be under intermediate. So understanding what insurance you need in life, between life insurance, disability insurance. If you have a business, there's all kinds of insurances there.
Yeah. I almost think business should be like a separate module,
Yeah.
like the right tax structure, the right budget for your business.
Oh, yeah. That's a whole course on its own.
Yeah, I think this is not the course for businesses. So just
Good
like
point. Good
that's,
point.
we're going to say that's out of scope,
Yes.
but it should be. And I think you should create all these courses as a course creator and a specialist. I'm going to say this is all really good stuff and I love it.
Well, here's a question for you, Kate. And I'm sure other course creators have these thoughts or blocks, I should say.
Yeah.
But one of the reasons why I haven't put any time into this is I think, well, there's so many other courses out there on this topic. So what makes my course different? Why should I put time into a course that might already be out there?
Yeah, I agree. There is definitely a lot of courses out there. I've not seen any course that's just like this, but there may be some. I haven't looked for it either. There's a couple of reasons. One is you have you in it. That's probably the biggest reason. And you could say the same for there's so many certified financial planners. Why would anybody choose you? So if there's so many courses out there on this particular thing, why would anybody choose you?
Sure.
And then to think about what aspects you have that are different from what's out there, other than the fact that it's you and your personality and how you connect with people. One thing that's really different about online courses versus courses that you've seen in corporations is courses that you've seen in corporations are pretty impersonal, mostly impersonal. They're really all about the content. So those courses are all about, like, if you are going to create a corporate thing on this, it would be very information focused. When you create a course and it is an online course and it has got a lot of videos with you in it, it is personality focused. And so who you are is one of the greatest differentiators. So they're not just learning financial planning, they're learning financial planning from Tess. So that's, and then whatever specific beliefs you have about money or a specific event, it is going to resonate with some people. And I really do love this idea of the review for 6 months. I think that is a really good differentiator as well. Of course, this may exist out there somewhere, and this video is going to be on YouTube, so everybody can steal the idea if they wanted to. But I really have to say the idea of something so important as finances and getting all the information and then having this chance to sit down with you virtually with a video that shows them how to walk through their finances every month is going to set them up for success. In fact, you could use scaffolding for this, where the first month you're holding their hand a little bit more. And then the video they get on the second month is like, hey, we're going to do it. You probably remember a lot of this stuff I'm going to walk you through. We'll have a little less than the first one. And the number 3, probably even less. In 4, 5, and 6, you could probably say, okay, I want you to remember how to do this on your own. So go ahead and do the review of your finances just like I showed you the previous month. And then when you're done, come back here and we'll go through and see if you did okay. So that's kind of called scaffolding, where you're kind of giving them more help up front and then less help as they go. So
Okay.
those are a couple of reasons why your course is going to be different from everybody else's.
Love it.
Probably, I would say Financial Peace University is probably the most common financial course that I know of. And I think it's pretty solid financially. I've been through it, but it isn't very simple.
Okay.
If you can come away with a very simple course, that would be great. I think their avatar is probably somebody a little different too.
Yeah. Okay.
What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I think that's wonderful insights. I haven't been through that program. It's Dave Ramsey's, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I've heard certain things that I am not, that are against my belief. And
That's
so,
awesome.
yeah.
That's awesome. That is the differentiator. You're not, if you have things that are against that, and I'm not saying I am or anything like that, but if you have things that are against that, then you are going to resonate with people who also feel the same. You're not the only one who says,
Right.
yeah, that's a great system and I'm glad for all the good he does, but I'm not doing those envelopes.
Yeah, no way.
You know what I'm saying? I would hate to say it, but you could market it as the envelope-free way of budgeting.
That's a good point. Yeah, the opposite.
It's an alternative because that isn't for everybody.
Yeah,
You're not going to
agreed.
be for everybody either, but that's
No, of course
fine.
not.
And that's why we need multiple courses on the same topic,
Yes.
is because
Yes.
not everybody is for everybody.
Yeah, you're so right. And I've been kind of leaning into what makes me different over the last 5 months, I want to say,
Yes.
to get a better understanding of, yes, there's so many financial advisors out there, but how many of them are first gen immigrant? How many of them are female?
Yes.
So all those different layers that make you who you are, that will resonate with someone who's like you in that way.
There are going to be people who are looking for a woman
Right.
because they want to promote small businesses of women. And there are
Yeah.
going to be people who are looking for people who are immigrants because they themselves are immigrants. And so
Yes.
they know how hard it is and they want to support you. So I agree. Lean into those things. Those are fantastic advantages. And
Yeah.
if you're helping somebody who is also a first or even second generation immigrant, they're going to know that you get that struggle
Right.
in a way that somebody like me, I've only lived in the United States and my great grandparents and my, for way too long. So I don't know that struggle the same way.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're so right.
All right. So all excuses are put aside. You've got your course kind of sketched out here.
There you go.
Reason why you should do this course. And I'm so glad you asked that question too. Do you have any other questions for me or like doubts that you want to throw at me? I'll take them. I'm ready.
I mean, here's a question. So how long does it typically take to create a course like this?
That's a great question. And it really depends on a lot of things. It depends on scope. It depends on whether or not you have an audience. It depends on your familiarity with the topic. Now, this is a topic that you're an expert and you've done it for many years, but sometimes let's just say somebody has less familiarity with this topic, but they have their own experience. They may want to do more digging into that. So it might take a little bit longer. Or let's say that they're starting with zero audience. They're going to want to build their audience while they're building their course in order to have something that works and that they can get to know their audience. Knowing your audience is super important. The fact you've worked with people is really a good benefit for you. And then scope, like I said, is the third thing. I really feel like you should probably have a broad sketch of what you want to accomplish overall. Like maybe it's 6 modules: personal finance, basics, intermediate, and mastery; small business, basics, intermediate, and mastery. Okay. So maybe you have I have an idea of what topics are in each one of them. You're going to start with basics for personal, and that one you're going to work on first. And you could do hey, people, friends of mine, I'm going to do a free class online, Facebook Live, where I'm just going to talk about budgeting. What this does is it gives you a chance to talk about the topic while you have an audience, so you get feedback on that. And then
Mhm.
you can build your module based on how you did with that particular thing. So you can practice this content in delivering the content before you actually, sketch it out. Then you would go and you would set up your things and you would make a more finalized version as you go along. I like the idea of starting with a proof of concept. I don't think you need to prove this concept because you are a financial planner and you're doing financial planning and as a course. So the concept is fine. But then you also have beta launches, which is kind of what you would do initially. It could be a free workshop. It could be a $17 workshop. It doesn't have to be free. And then you would do a pilot, which is where you're making everything a little bit more finalized. And so I have a YouTube video on that and I can send you the link for it. So you're asking how long it takes. I would say it takes as long as it takes, but you could probably get that basic one done in 3 to 4 months, depending on how much time you spent on it.
Got it. Okay, that's good to know.
And then I would do the same with the intermediate and mastery, like put out those talks, get used to talking about the topic, use the questions that people have to say, do I need to include that? Or do I need to be clear that why that isn't included or that sort of thing.
Understood.
I think your course has a lot of potential. So,
Thank you. Thank you.
well, what do you think? Do you think we talked her into it? I think we did. I think we can look forward to seeing some courses from Tess about financial literacy. And based on what she said, I think they're going to be amazing. I can't wait to see them. If you have any ideas for a course, be sure to contact me. If you're interested in seeing what she has planned, look in the links because we have a link for you to get in touch with her and see what she's doing. Have a beautiful day.